Pregame show on the Padres Radio Network.
Jackson swings, hits it in the air, deep to right field. He has done it again. Unbelievable.
Coming up, we'll have a recap of the previous Padres game, a preview of today's starting pitching matchup, our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Mike Shildt.
Ultimately, what we're here to do is win.
From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today, the Padres take on the Toronto Blue Jays in the final game of a 3-game series. Our starting pitching matchup today on the mound for the Blue Jays, right-hander Bowden Francis, and for the Padres, right-hander Stephen Kolek. Hi again, everyone. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. Little Padres and pancakes for you on a Thursday morning. First pitch coming up at Rogers Center in Toronto at 10:07 a.m. here on the West Coast. And coming up in the next 50 minutes, we have a lot to do. We'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We'll hear from today's starting pitcher, Stephen Kolek. We'll check in with Bob Scanland in just a little bit. Our keys to the game, what to watch for, a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard, and a full breakdown of today's starting pitching matchup. But first, it's time to set the table. Brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with 3 locations, La Mesa, Vista, and Oceanside, and at FraserFarmsMarket.com. Padres enter today 27-20. It has not been going well as of late. Padres have lost 5 in a row. They're now just 2-7 in their last 9 games. Meanwhile, the Blue Jays enter today winners of 2 in a row. They enter at a record of 24-24. Stephen Kolek making his 4th start of the season for the Padres. He's 2-1 in 3 starts so far with a 2.33 ERA in 19 plus innings. Well, it was another tough one for the Padres in Toronto last night. Let's quickly rewind.
Did you miss what happened in the last Padres game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind on the Padres Radio Network.
Both starting pitchers were great early on yesterday. Kevin Gausman threw 5 scoreless innings. Randy Vasquez threw 4 scoreless frames to begin his night. In the bottom of the 5th inning, the Blue Jays had a runner on first base. 2 men away, Nathan Lucas at the plate.
The pitch. High fly ball to right field. Pretty well hit. Fernando's going back. He looks up. This one is gone. A 2-run home run for Nathan Lucas gives the Jays a 2-0 lead with 2 outs here in the 5th.
Vasquez would last 4 innings and 2/3. Jeremiah Estrada finished the 5th inning. Top of the 6th inning, Luis Arraez hit a 2-out triple, but Manny Machado flew out to end the inning. At that point, the Padres were 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position. Gausman went 7 scoreless innings in his start. Bottom 7, Adrian Morejon came in, a leadoff single, then an error by Manny Machado on a potential double play ball, and then another error by Manny when he couldn't field a sac bunt cleanly. So the Blue Jays had the bases loaded with nobody out for Bo Bichette.
1-2 pitch. Ground ball to Jake. He's got it. He bobbles it. And the only play now is over to second base. The run will score. And the Padre defense has just really fallen apart here in the 7th inning. Probably would have been a play that Jake could have gone home. They could have gotten the lead runner. They would have had 1 out, no runs in, a double play in order. But instead, because of the bobble, the only play was to go to second base. Barger scores. It's now a 3-0 Jays lead.
Still runners on first and third, 1 out for Vlad Guerrero Jr.
Swung on line drive heading towards center field. Jackson Merrill is charging, but he's not going to get there in time. Base hit for Guerrero. Clementa's going to score, and the Jays now have a 4-0 lead.
Blue Jays would go on to score 5 runs in the 7th to make it 7-0. All the runs unearned on Padres pitching. Bottom of the 8th inning, Alec Jacob on the mound, a couple of base runners. Then Bo Bichette hit an RBI single to make it 8-zip. Then an error by Jose Iglesias on a fielder's choice where he couldn't get an out anywhere. That loaded the bases for Dalton Varsho.
Bases loaded, nobody out. Swung on high fly ball to deep center field. Jackson Merrill going back. He's at the warning track. He's at the wall. It's a grand slam home run for Dalton Varsho.
We'll cut to the chase. Blue Jays scored 2 more runs, a 7-run 8th inning. Final score yesterday, Blue Jays 14 and the Padres nothing. Padres losing a 5th in a row. They went 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position, and now the Padres try to salvage this series finale at Rogers Center, north of the border in Canada. Speaking of north of the border, let's go up to Toronto.
Let's take a trip up to the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup with Bob Scanland in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
All right, Scan. Well, I wish I was asking you something a little bit different than I was asking you a couple of days ago regarding the Padres offense, but we're sort of in the same spot. Padres continue to have a lot of trouble scoring, shutout in back-to-back games in this series. And Scan, we did hear Mike Shildt, who is always really positive, and hey, he's been such a nice manager for this team for a season plus now, and he always has that very positive mentality. But we even heard Mike Shildt use the word pressing yesterday after the game. You and Tony talked a little bit about that after the game as well. What are you seeing from the Padres offensively right now, maybe beyond just getting shut out in back-to-back games and scoring only 3 runs in their last 5?
Yeah, Sam, I think we've pretty much beaten this horse dead at this point, haven't we, in terms of talking about the struggles and everything that goes on. And there's all kinds of different steps along the way. At first, you're not panicking very much. It's early, the first game or two. And by game 3 or 4, you start pressing a little bit, right? I mean, it's natural. You start realizing as a player, okay, we've not done it for a few days. Now I got to start trying, instead of trusting. We've talked about that process. And then it becomes a thing of, okay, when are we going to get it run again? When are we going to, so there's all types of different, steps throughout this process. And it's also collectively as a unit and also individually in each guy's mind, what he might be thinking coming up to the plate, right? Luis Arias, he's doing fine. He's been crushing the ball. So, each guy's sort of going through his own internal mental stuff along with collectively as a group, what are you trying to do? And I think, it's easier said than done, but I can only speak to what I had to go through when I was slumping as a pitcher. And I think there's a lot of similarities between pitching and hitting in terms of, success and confidence and those types of things. And when I struggled as a pitcher, generally what was happening is I would start looking at bigger picture type things, right? I'm starting to think, okay, what do I need to do to get the ERA down? What do I need to do to start getting, win when I go back out here? What do I need to do to strand my boys' runners next time I come in out of the pen? Whatever the situation may be. And that's fine to have sort of a big, broad picture of what you want to do. But then the question becomes, okay, so how do I do that? And it always comes down to one thing, whether you're going good or whether you're going bad. And that's just focusing on the one thing that you have control on, which is that pitch right here, right now. And I think pitchers go through it where you start worrying about, okay, I've got to put up 6 scoreless innings this game to get my ERA back down. Or I need to throw 7 scoreless because I'm facing Max Scherzer today, and it's the only way that I'm going to help my team win the game. When you start thinking about big focus things such as that, you're not focusing on the one thing that you have control of, which is the one pitch that I need to make right here, right now. And every time that I got out of a slump, Sam, it was because I had to really reach rock bottom where I would just get back to, okay, I've only got control of one thing, and that is this next pitch that I'm going to throw. And when you're going good, you don't really think about it because you're not distracted by big picture things. You're just locked in on that one pitch because everything's going to work out fine, so you don't have to think about the big stuff. When things aren't going well, you get distracted by the big stuff and you stop focusing on the one thing that you have control of, which is the next pitch that's being delivered or the next pitch that you need to make. So it's as simple as that, and it's as hard as that, because when things aren't going well, there's so many things that are going through your mind. And you try to knock out the noise, you try to block out the traffic, Sam, but sometimes it is super hard to do. But the sooner you can get back to just the basics of what do I need to do right here, right now on this one pitch, that's when things usually started to turn around, at least for me.
Really good insight, Scans. And as we turn the page to the final game of this series, good pitching matchup today. Right-hander Stephen Kolek, who's been pretty good so far in his early part of the season as a starting pitcher. 3 starts, it's 3.3 ERA. Obviously, Scan, the first couple of outings were excellent. Last one, he made a few mistakes, gave up 3 home runs, 5 earned runs given up in 5 innings. What will you be looking for today from Stephen Kolek against this Blue Jay lineup?
The thing that always makes Stephen Kolek successful, we saw it at the end of last season. We've seen it when he's done well this season, and that's just being aggressive in the strike zone with his sinker. When that pitch is going well and he's just challenging guys with it to both sides of the plate, it's going to set everything else up. And what's nice is that he has more weapons to go to this year, specifically that slider, which wasn't as big a pitch for him last year because of mechanical issues. It was tough for him to get his arm out front. This year he can get out there a little bit more, so it's not just fastball sweeper. He's got fastball sweeper and a slider to go with it as well. And because of the better mechanics, I think he is able to be more spot on command with that fastball in the strike zone. So simple as that, Sam. Again, sounds as simple.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not as simple to do, but being aggressive with that heater is where his success.
Finally, Bowden Francis, 29-year-old right-hander on the mound for Toronto today. 5.63 ERA in 9 starts, but I think he can get fooled a little bit here, Scan, with Francis, because he has been good the last couple of years, and he's had a rough last 4 starts or so. What can we expect from Bowden Francis today for the Blue Jays?
Yeah, it's interesting. You pointed it out. He's had moments of success. In fact, in 24, he flirted with no hitters a couple of times.
Yeah.
So it's not a guy that you can take lightly. Yeah, the numbers have not been good lately. I don't exactly know what has been the issue lately. I know that he's giving up a ton of long balls, but of all those home runs, most of them has been solo home runs. So he's not getting damaged by, the 3-run blast or the 4-run blast. It's basically solo shot. But it's obviously command in the zone when you're giving up the long ball, so we'll see if the Padres can take advantage of that today.
All right, Scans, good stuff as always. We'll talk to you and Tony Gwynn Jr. coming up at the bottom of the hour, right at 9:57 a.m. here in San Diego. Have a great call, and always thanks so much.
Sounds good. Thanks, Sam.
All right, Bob Scanland joining us on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show here on the Padres Radio Network. Again, we'll go out to Rogers Center in Toronto at 9:57. First pitch coming your way at 10:07 a.m. As we usually do here on a morning baseball game where we're on the air bright and early. We invite you to share how you're enjoying Padres baseball, little Padres and pancakes, maybe you got the coffee going. Maybe you've went out like Nick and I did here in the studio, got coffee from outside the local coffee machine here in the office. Maybe you've got the waffle maker going. Maybe you've got French toast. Maybe you've got a couple of slices of toast. Maybe you got a bowl of cereal. However you are enjoying Padres baseball on this Thursday morning, you can take a photo and send it to me on X at Sammy Lev, SammyLev. Instagram DMs open as well. Sammy Lev there too. You can also comment on the 97.3 The Fan YouTube stream as well. You want to find me on TikTok? You can do that too at Sammy Levitt, SammyLevitt. Let me know, how are you enjoying Padres baseball on this Thursday morning? Little Padres and pancakes, and maybe we need a little pancakes and syrup after a 5-game losing skid. Maybe that is the cure to a losing streak and how the Padres get a win here today. You could think that. Hopefully, we're right. When we come back, we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We'll also hear from today's starting pitcher, Stephen Kolek, a little bit later as well. First pitch coming up bright and early at 10:07 a.m. here on the West Coast. We continue our pregame coverage after this on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network as we get ready for this series finale north of the border in Toronto, Canada. At Rogers Center, first pitch coming up at 10:07 a.m. between the Padres and the Blue Jays. Right-hander Stephen Kolek on the mound for the Padres. Right-hander Bowden Francis on the mound for the Jays. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. Let's hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt before today's game.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt, served up by Sin Lee Food, where fresh meets flavor. Find farm fresh produce, bold Asian spices, and gourmet ingredients at 4665 El Cajon Boulevard. Sin Lee Food, the cook's Asian resource.
Day game after a night game, so no pregame media availability today for Mike Shildt. So let's revisit what Mike had to say after yesterday's 14-0 loss against the Blue Jays. Padres shut out for a second consecutive game in this series, and we'll get to some of the offensive numbers a little bit later, but we'll tell you this one right now. Padres have only scored 3 runs in their last 5 games, and again, they have yet to score a run in this series against the Blue Jays. Here was Mike Shildt after the game discussing last night's shutout loss.
As far as the offense goes, listen, group of guys taking as many good tough at bats as they can, just not being able to put together. It's starting to creep in a little bit. A guys pressing, it did. I feel like wear on us a little bit. Defensively, we've been great defensively the last 6 games, 1 questionable error over at home, but we played really clean baseball. Actually, I've got a whole left side of my scorecard with some really plus defensive plays. The first 6 innings of the game, Bogey, Toddy, a couple, fantastic plays, guys blocking, playing their tails off. But, the offensive part, listen, if we had an answer, we do have an answer, just always getting to come into play. So I should correct myself. We have an answer, and the answer is that we've got, you asked me before the game about the lineup, and rightfully so. What's the lineup? What's going on with the lineup? And then it's interesting, a week ago when we were on the road, we got our lineup that we started the season with back, and everybody's, we're swinging the bats. Where everybody's like, wow, what a lineup. So it's always curious about how the view of lineups are. And so to that point, I tend to feel very strongly about this in our game. That's, it's a sprint within a marathon, but it is a marathon. And I'm not a big overreactor or underreactor to any of it. We enjoyed when we won one recently, 21-0, and clearly this one hurts the way it went down at the end of the game today. But the answer to the question is, being able to take a step back, and that's far easier said than done. And continue to know that the guys in that clubhouse and the guys that we run out there in the lineup every day are proven big league players that actually sometimes it allows me at least to appreciate how hard this game is, and how they make something as difficult as doing the hardest thing in all of sports. How they get this, we get the privilege of seeing them do it and be able to be successful at it pretty consistently as a group. And we haven't seen it the last 5 days, and no one's going to alibi that. But the answer is to, get up, keep our head up, and make sure our focus is in the right spot and doesn't let it, have any collectiveness to it. And that's easier said than done.
Bright spot for your offense has been Luis Arias.
Yes.
What are you seeing from him right now?
Yeah, that's good. And we want to talk about some of the good too. Luis, driving the ball. I mean, double, triple tonight. It's coming off his bat. Line drives just all over the field, just vintage Louis. And, again, the bat quality was good. And some say we hit lined out a couple of times. And I say that no one wants to hear that. People want to see runs and people want to see results. But, but Louis in a really good place. And he, like us, are going to always compete. And we're looking forward to tomorrow's game. And, I wish it was a doubleheader. I'd be ready to go right now.
Well, no doubleheader today, but we do have a ball game coming up at 10:07 a.m. That was Padres manager Mike Shildt after yesterday's game. We'll hear more from Mike on our post-game coverage coming up later on this afternoon. Padres lineup looks like this today. Fernando Tatis Jr. in right field leading off. Luis Arraez, the DH today, batting second. Manny Machado at third base batting third. Jackson Merrill in center batting cleanup. Gavin Sheets, the first baseman, batting fifth. Jake Cronenworth in the sixth spot playing second base. Elias Diaz doing the catching and batting seventh. Jose Iglesias playing shortstop today and batting eighth. And Brandon Lockridge going up against the right-hander in Bowden Francis in left field and batting ninth. So Xander Bogaerts getting a day off today. Again, Jose Iglesias is the shortstop and batting eighth. Let's tell you who's hot, who's not.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to kick things up another notch? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not on the Padres Radio Network.
Let's begin with a look at the one guy right now in the hot category, and you heard Mike Shildt talk about him. That is Luis Arraez, batting .354 in his last 11 games, and Arraez now in the midst of an 8-game hitting streak. And oh, by the way, Arraez with a couple of hits yesterday, now batting .301 on the season. So his average, to no surprise, is back up above 300. Not category, let's look at a couple of guys. Jackson Merrill. His last 7 games, Jackson is 2 for 27. Fernando Tatis Jr. 0 for 4 last night, now batting just .210 with a .704 OPS in his past 15 games. And that's a look at who's hot, who's not, as we get ready for the final game of this 3-game series. Let's take a look at some headlines from around the majors.
Let's examine the most important news and the latest information you need to know in the world of Major League Baseball. Sam Levitt takes you Around the Horn, presented by Valley View Casino and Hotel. Get ready for Major League winning when you join Valley View Casino and Hotel's Players Club and receive over $200 in free instant offers. Visit valleyviewcasino.com to learn more today.
Some highlights from last night's action. A walk-off winner in the Bronx.
Pitch, bring ball, high fly ball, deep right field. This game is over. Into the second deck, Jason Dominguez and the Yankees walk them off. Yankees win this game 4-3.
Dave Sims, WFAN Yankees Radio in New York. Jason Dominguez, a walk-off home run in the bottom of the 9th inning. Yankees win it 4-3 against Texas. The Orioles badly, and I mean badly, needed a win in Milwaukee. They came into the game losing 8 in a row. Well, they got some help from their catcher.
Third base, and there's a fly ball in the deep left field. Collins on his way back, and this ball is out of here. It's a lever for Adley Rutschman. Boy, did he need that. Boy, did the Orioles need that. And the Orioles put a crooked number on the board here in the 11th inning. The 5th home run from Adley, and it's an 8-4 Orioles lead on a ball that was smoked.
Adley Rutschman, a big home run in the 11th inning, helping the Orioles beat the Brew Crew 8-4 in 11. Orioles snapping that 8-game skid. From a young catcher going deep to a veteran catcher going deep in San Francisco.
Now the pitch from Webb, swing and a high fly ball, hit pretty well to right field. Yastrzemski going back, looking up, and that ball is out of here. It's an opposite field 2-run homer for Salvador Perez, and the Royals lead it 6-1.
Call from Royals Radio. Salvador Perez, a 2-run homer in the Royals' 8-4 win against the Giants yesterday in San Francisco. Some other headlines from this morning. Gene Segura has retired from baseball. 2-time All-Star infielder, played for 6 different teams in a 12-year Major League career. Giants will put right-hander Justin Verlander on the IL because of a right pectoral injury. And finally, Nationals put rookie slugger Dylan Cruz on the IL with a left oblique strain. Cruz leads all Major League rookies with 7 home runs so far this season. And that's a look at some of the action from last night and also some of the headlines entering today from around the major leagues. When we come back, we have our keys to the game. We'll also take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard, and we hear from today's starting pitcher, Stephen Kolek. Much, much more to do as we walk you up towards first pitch coming up at 10:07 in Rogers Center at Rogers Center in Toronto. More pregame after this on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at 10:07 a.m. Right-hander Stephen Kolek on the mound today for the Padres. We'll hear from Stephen coming up in just a couple of minutes. Let's give you the latest on Yu Darvish.
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit them up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
This was from Padres beat reporter Kevin Acee in the San Diego Union Tribune yesterday. Let me read what Kevin had to write yesterday. Starting pitcher Yu Darvish is feeling some quote-unquote residual effects from his elbow issue in spring training, and there remains no timetable for his return. Kevin continuing to write, multiple sources said he is not experiencing pain and that there has not been a setback per se. The plan, according to sources, is for Darvish to remain in San Diego rather than join the team in Atlanta later this week, as had been expected. So that is significant news because it sounded for a while like Yu Darvish would likely return on this road trip. But again, Kevin reporting, it doesn't seem like that's the plan right now. So we'll keep you posted on what the latest is regarding Yu Darvish, but that's the latest. Apparently Yu feeling some quote-unquote residual effects from this continuing elbow issue that began back in spring training. And that's the latest on Yu Darvish. First pitch coming up at 10:07 as the Padres try to snap a 5-game skid. Let's give you our keys to today's game.
How will the Padres unlock a win today? These are the keys to the game. Presented by El Centro Motors Ford. Meet your new Ford General Manager, Greg Ryan, now at El Centro Motors Ford, your new Ford truck, Bronco, and SUV HQ. Call Greg directly at 619-944-0774.
Key number 1, you guessed it. Hey, offense, wake up. Padres have scored 3 runs in their last 5 games. They are a combined 0 for 32 with runners in scoring position in those 5 games. They are hitting just 200 as a team in those 5 games. Padres have only hit 5 home runs in their last 9 games since that 21-run outburst in Colorado. And the Padres have also not scored now in a total of 26 consecutive innings. I can give you numbers. I can get deeper into each player. Regardless, Padres got to find ways to score runs. It's impossible to win games with what they're doing offensively right now. That is key number 1, much like the key from yesterday. Offense got to wake up. Key number 2, don't let Varsho leave the yard. Dalton Varsho hit the grand slam against the Padres yesterday. He now has 7 home runs in just 16 games this season. Varsho is part of a Blue Jays offense that's been pretty good as of late. Since May 6th, the Jays lead the American League in batting average at .277, and they also rank second in on-base percentage, slugging percentage, and OPS. So Varsho leading the power surge for the Jays as of late. Had the grand slam yesterday. Keep Varsho in the yard. That's key number 2. Key number 3, limit the bottom of the Blue Jay lineup. And here's why. Because of what Bo Bichette does in the leadoff spot. Bichette is batting .370 with a .923 OPS in 46 at-bats this season with runners in scoring position. So if you allow the bottom of the Toronto lineup to get on base, the order then flips over to a guy who can really hurt you with runners in scoring position. You cannot allow the bottom of that lineup to get on base in front of Bo Bichette, who's had some RBIs already in this series. Key number 4, be very good against Vladdy. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had a home run on Tuesday and RBI single last night. Vladdy now in the midst of a Major League best 21-game on-base streak, hitting .308 in that span with 18 runs scored and a .902 OPS. Look, it goes without saying, you got to be careful with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bichette, and Vladdy batting 1 and 2 in the Blue Jay lineup here today. And that's a look at our keys to the game. Well, a big way the Padres can limit guys like Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is with their starting pitcher, Stephen Kolek, being very good on the mound here today. Stephen's been good so far in his 3 starts to begin his season here in 2025, his first 3 major league starts after making the transition from reliever to starter during spring training. Here was Stephen Kolek reviewing his first 3 starts of the season.
I had a lot of success, I guess, in those first 2, and there was a lot of good moments as well in that third one, and find the few moments where 3 swings can really change an outing. So just kind of dissecting those, figuring out, was it bad preparation and the plan? Was it bad execution, or is it just tip your cap? Those guys get paid too. And a little bit of kind of each of those for different things for each one, but taking away different things from each mistake, if you would, and let's apply that to the next one and hopefully limit those in the future.
Now, Stephen Kolek did face the Blue Jays last season early in the year in relief, but obviously he's never faced them as a starting pitcher, and every team he's facing right now, he's never faced as a starting pitcher before. Here was Kolek on how he works on a game plan against the team that he's never started against.
Well, I would say that all of these teams to me are relatively unfamiliar, or I'm unfamiliar with, because this is my first year starting. So last year, some of the names I do see familiar with, but most of these guys, it doesn't really matter what team I'm playing. They're all pretty new to me. So I'm just trying to learn as much as I can from the people around me and within our own scouting department with Ruben and Peter Somerville and, the whole pitching department. They put in a tremendous amount of work to help us get prepared. So talking with Peter, talking with Ruben, talking with Dylan or Randy or whoever's throwing this series and who's really bought into investigating these guys. We're all talking and trying to figure out the best plan of attack.
There are a lot of different aspects that go into being a really, really good reliever, but one of the more important aspects, you could argue, is actually having a short-term memory, not taking what happens in one outing and bringing it into another. Here was Stephen Kolek on how he's taken that mindset from relieving and now applied it to starting.
My job now is to get at least 5 innings for our team, and good or bad, I need to get through it. And ideally, it always goes great. But at worst case scenario, I still want to be able to provide at least 5 innings for our team, and that way it keeps our bullpen from getting blown up and always give us a chance to win best I can. So yeah, sometimes it's if you're out there in the first and you give up a run or two, it's all right, well, we got to salvage this outing now. It's not the short-term memory factor is still very much there, but it's just slightly geared different.
That was today's starting pitcher, Stephen Kolek, yesterday inside the Padres clubhouse. Kolek on the mound for the Padres and right-hander Bowden Francis on the mound for the Blue Jays. We'll have much more on that starting pitching matchup coming up in just a little bit. As always, our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show brought to you by EcoWater SoCal, keeping it soft since 1925. Let's take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the bigs to highlight the scores that matter most with our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Premium Beef Patties. Always a hit for grilling.
We have one game that is just underway. Rangers and the Yankees at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. Scoreless game in the first inning there. Carlos Rodon on the mound for the Yankees today. Phillies and the Rockies coming up at 12:10. Ranger Suarez on the mound for Philadelphia. Herman Marquez on the mound for the Rockies. Angels and the A's in Sacramento at 12:35. Luis Severino on the mound for the A's. Tyler Anderson on the mound for the Angels. Guardians and the Tigers at 3:40 in Detroit. Jack Flaherty against Tanner Bybee, the pitching matchup in that one. Brewers and the Pirates in Pittsburgh at 3:40. 3:45 today in D.C. Nationals host the Braves. A.J. Smith-Shawver on the mound for Atlanta. Trevor Williams on the mound for the Nationals. Orioles and the Red Sox at 3:45 at Fenway Park. Cade Povich on the mound for Baltimore. Lucas Giolito on the mound for the Red Sox. And finally, Mariners and the Astros in Houston at 5:10. Lance McCullers Jr. on the mound for Houston, and making his season debut, the very talented right-hander for Seattle, George Kirby. And that is a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard. We'll have even more on some of those games coming up a little bit later during our post-game coverage. When we come back on a EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show, we'll focus on one Padre that could make a big impact on today's game, and we'll also have a full preview of today's starting pitching matchup between Stephen Kolek and right-hander Bowden Francis on the mound for the Blue Jays. As always, little Padres and pancakes for you still before 10 a.m. Let me know, how are you enjoying Padres baseball on this Thursday morning? You can send me a photo, maybe of your coffee, maybe of your waffle, maybe of your eggs and hash browns, whatever you're enjoying. You can send it to me on X at Sammy Lev, SammyLev. Instagram DM's open as well. Sammy Lev there too. You can also comment on the 97.3 The Fan YouTube stream. A shout out to Paul, who is listening this morning from his boat. A beautiful, beautiful view of the ocean waters from Paul. Paul, shout out to you. Appreciate you tuning in. First pitch coming up at 10:07. Our pregame coverage continues after this. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. We go out to Bob Scanland and Tony Gwynn Jr. in less than 10 minutes. They'll have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play as the Padres try to salvage their series finale at Rogers Center in Toronto today. Padres trying to snap a 5-game losing skid. Right-hander Stephen Kolek gets the start today, his 4th start of the season for San Diego. Let's tell you what to watch for today in Toronto.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For. Presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
What to watch for in today's game? Was last night a sign of Manny Machado getting it going at the plate? In his first 4 games of this 5-game losing streak, Manny went 0 for 15. And even though he had a rough defensive game, really a rough defensive inning last night, Manny did have 2 hits in last night's game. So the question here today, what we're looking for today, does that get him going? Remember, Manny was hitting .340 on the season before this 5-game losing streak started. And as we know, the saying goes, as Manny goes, the Padres go. Padres need Manny to get it going. Did have 2 hits yesterday. So will that momentum carry into today's game? That's my question today, and that's what to watch for as the Padres take on the Blue Jays with first pitch coming up at 10:07. Right-hander Stephen Kolek on the mound for the Padres. Right-hander Bowden Francis on the mound for the Jays. Let's dive in.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview on the Padres Radio Network.
The 28-year-old right-hander Stephen Kolek on the mound for the Padres today. He's 2-1, 3 starts on the year, a 2.33 ERA, 19-plus innings. He struck out 15 and walked 5. His last start against the Mariners, 5 innings, 5 earned runs given up. On 8 hits, he gave up 3 home runs. In his first 2 outings, he was absolutely terrific, a combined 14 1/3 scoreless innings. That included that complete Game 5 hit shutout in Colorado, 11 strikeouts to 4 walks in those first 2 starts. He did make a relief appearance against the Blue Jays last season, allowed 2 hits in 2/3 of an inning. And so far, just note this. Stephen Kolek has some pretty drastic lefty-righty splits so far as a starting pitcher. And they're also reverse. Righties are hitting .324 against them in 34 at-bats. Lefties at .167 in 36 at-bats. Small sample size, but pretty drastic so far. So keep an eye on the righty-righty matchups with Stephen Kolek today, because righties have hit him far better than lefties. The pitch mix for Stephen Kolek, a 4-seam fastball, a sinker, a slider, a changeup. We'll use those for a lot. Also mixes in and the cutter. Right-hander Bowden Francis on the mound for Toronto today, 29 years old so far in 2025, 2-6, 9 starts on the year, 5.63 ERA, 46-plus innings. He's given up 52 hits, 36 strikeouts, and 13 walks. You got to watch the home run ball with Bowden Francis. He's given up 14 home runs this season, the most in the major leagues right now. Last start against the Tigers wasn't great, 4 2/3 innings, 4 earned runs given up, 8 hits, and he gave up 2 home runs. And like we alluded to with Bob Scanland a little bit earlier, the last 4 starts for Francis have been rough. An 8.68 ERA and 8 home runs allowed in 18-plus innings. But don't get too caught up in his numbers this year. Francis is a good pitcher. Last season had a 3.30 ERA in 100-plus innings. In 2023, he had a 1.73 ERA in 20 appearances out of the bullpen. So keep in mind, Francis has been good in years past, but as of late has not gone very well. Faced the Padres in relief last season through 2 scoreless innings. And the pitch mix for Bowden Francis, a 4-seam fastball, a splitter, a curveball, a slider, and a sinker. And that's a look at our starting pitching matchup today. Couple of young right-handers going at it. Stephen Kolek for the Padres and Bowden Francis on the mound for Toronto. As always, we appreciate you listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. EcoWater SoCal, keeping it soft since 1925. Your water should be perfect. Well, the big question here today, will the Padres offense finally get it going? Padres come in a record of 27-20. However, they have lost 5 in a row. Padres have not lost 6 in a row since the 2023 season. Padres have scored only 3 runs in their last 5 games. They're a combined 0 for 32 with runners in scoring position in those 5 games. They're not slugging. They're hitting just 200 as a team in the last 5 games. They haven't scored in a while since Sunday's game against the Mariners. In fact, since the first inning against the Mariners on Sunday. So officially, this is me telling you let's turn the page. Let's see if the Padres can score some runs and pick up a win in the series finale at Rogers Center in Toronto. When we return, we go north of the border to Bob Scanland and Tony Gwynn Jr. They have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our post-game coverage. You're listening to your home for San Diego Padres baseball, 97.3 The Fan, and the Padres Radio Network. Enjoy the game, Padres fans.